Ta-da! Well, I don't know how many of you stayed with me all this time. I had an internet outage in my neighborhood today, and didn't know whether or not I should go ahead or just start this tomorrow. But as my record was so good at doing this every day, and I didn't want to break my good record. And besides, I'm starting this new book, the Book of Ordinary Oracles, perhaps my most favorite book, and my best book that nobody's ever read. Well, a few people have. But anyway, I'm going to start it today. The full title is The Book of Ordinary Oracles, and my good publisher, Weiser, decided to put a subtitle on it that said, Use Pocket Change, Popsicle Sticks, TV Remote, This Book, and more to predict the future and answer your questions. Now, I start right off. Well, before I do that, this book is lovingly dedicated to Thalassa, Queen of Air and Darkness, and the Daughters of Divination, the DOD. With Thalassa, it's her fault that I even wrote this book, because one of the divinatory techniques that I describe here, I hurriedly invented at a Pantheacon where I sat in one of Thalassa's panel discussions on divination, and it gave me the idea for the entire book. So, Thalassa, I miss seeing you every year. But anyway, here's the acknowledgments. The author would like to thank Brianna Siri for her precious tarot images, Anne Quinn for her remarkable Shakespeare Speaks oracle, Jody Breedlove for his graphics and wisdom, Kat Sanborn, Brenda Knight for their unflagging support and encouragement, and especially members of my Monday night magic class, and its most ruthless heckler, my wife Constance. And it begins with a whole book epigram. The character Typhon is speaking. Hast thou no message from the gods? The character Hermanubis answers, None, brother. Let us seek an oracle of the gods. That's from Crowley's Rites of Eleusis, the Rite of Jupiter. The prologue. This book is an oracle. Notice these little thumbnail things. Those are little tiny oracles. And it's on every page for bibliomancy, but I'll describe it later. Epigram is from Thomas Jefferson. I cannot live without books. It is said that the spoken word and the art of writing are gifts from the gods. According to tradition, the ancient Sumerians lived like the beasts of the fields until the day Oannes, the fish man, flopped out of their Eartharian fields. Excuse me, I'm going to spell this for you. Erythraean. Erythraean sea, and taught them letters, arts, and sciences. Thoth and Hermes did the same for the Egyptians and the Greeks, only with less amphibious panache. For centuries, writing was reserved for priests and kings. Each word or character was considered magical and holy. After all, writing mysteriously evoked pictures and ideas in the minds of the skilled reader. It allowed the dead to speak, preserved the past, itemized the present, and speculated about the future. Writing codified laws, solemnized agreements and treaties, inventoried goods, tallied debts, and facilitated civilization as we know it. Is it any wonder that all writing should be held in particular reverence? Books contain astounding magical potential. Books are complex living entities and as such have been used for centuries as oracular devices. For many years after the advent of the printing press, however, books remained rare, and the Holy Bible was the only book most Europeans knew or cared about. They, like many people today, considered it the Word of God, and as such possessed of supernatural powers. It was not uncommon for devout believers to answer their sincere questions by selecting a Bible page at random and taking from it a written answer directly from the Almighty. This process is called bibliomancy. Used with skill and sincerity, it can be as efficacious as any form of divination. While the Holy Bible is held in particular reverence by a great many people, others do not view it as the only holy book in the world. Indeed, as mystics of every age and culture tell us, everything is holy in its own way. Books, even ordinary books like this one, can serve as divinatory tools. To this end, my editor cleverly suggested that we turn the entire book into a bibliomantic oracle. I call the reader's attention to the mini oracles in the margin of this book, starting on page 1. And on the other side, too. Let's see. In classic oracular style, some provide direct answers, others pose provocative questions, and still others suggest that you re-ask your question and consult the oracles, Still others suggest that you re-ask your question and consult other oracles discussed in this book. Just ask your question, close your eyes, then rotate and flip the book over and over in your hands until you have no idea whether you are holding it right side up, frontwards, or backwards. Wait until the Spirit moves you, then open the book to any page and read your answer. Go ahead, give it a try. Have fun. Should I give my listeners some advice concerning their attitude toward this book? Time's a-wasting. Thank you. And as we're running late today, that's a good. I rest my case. Quickly, we'll just go over a very short chapter, 1, and then we'll pick up in earnest tomorrow. Chapter 1 is called No Sense of Humor? Leave My Dent. The epigram is from Mark Twain. The human race has one really effective weapon, and that is laughter. This book was written to be fun. It was fun to write. I have every confidence that it'll be fun for you to read and use. Why a fun book on oracles and divination? I guess it's because the other books on the subject aren't very much fun. And so don't offer you the one thing that keeps us all from surrendering to the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and slinking daily into cynicism, depression, hopelessness, and despair. That is the gift of laughing at it all. The gift of laughing at ourselves. That said, please don't think that I'm poking fun at the concept of oracles, even ordinary oracles. In fact, I bet my magic 8-ball that by the time you finish reading this little book, your soothsaying abilities will be boosted by several sooths. Call me romantic, but I still love the word fortune teller. It's colorful. It cues in the soul a strum of the guitar and the lilt of a tortured violin. It evokes the smell of patchouli and garlic. It links us through racial memory to every culture's version of the goddess Fortuna, she who turns the great wheel of fortune. Sometimes we're on top of the wheel, sometimes we're not. The image of the fortune teller cautions us to, yes, take this seriously, but not so seriously that you forget that the goddess Fortuna has a sense of humor. No sense of humor? Then leave my tent. You offend the goddess. To many of my generation, those of us who grew up in the last millennium, the word fortune tellers evokes images of a dark, colorfully dressed, deeply cleavaged, and heavily bejeweled gypsy woman. She's a palm reader or a crystal ball reader, or else she parts the veil of the unknown by reading tarot cards or any one of a number of more ordinary objects such as playing cards, bones, dice, or dominoes. Unfortunately, this stereotype has become synonymous with confidence scams, fraud, deceit, and larceny. Undeserved as this reputation may be in many cases, it remains an accursed legacy that casts into the twilight fringes of society both the felonious charlatan and the gifted practitioner. You only have to examine local statutes throughout the world to learn that in many places, professional fortune-telling is a crime. For a significant part of recorded history, it was a crime punishable by death. And that's not funny at all. So here at the very beginning of your adventures with ordinary oracles, let's agree that when I use the word fortune teller, I'm referring to anyone who, by means of one or more divinatory techniques or oracles, attempts to gain knowledge of hidden things. In the pages that follow, I'll share a few anecdotal examples of my attempts to gain knowledge of hidden things and examine an assortment of common and perhaps unlikely divinatory tools and techniques. Some of these ordinary oracles have been used with reverence for centuries and have a rich, complex tradition. Some were created by students of my Monday Night Magic class as part of an assignment. Some I just pulled out of my own twisted imagination. All of them are meant to be fun and entertaining, but they're all intended to awaken within you powers of perception that are currently slumbering just beneath your other five senses. The subject of oracles has not always been a laughing matter. In fact, it's a very serious theme with provocative implications concerning human consciousness and the mind's potential, the fragility of time, and the nature of reality. For the greater part of recorded history, oracles have ordered wars, chosen kings and queens, and dictated the course of empires. So before we start creating divinatory devices out of ordinary stuff we have around the house, I'm going to share with you 7 secrets every fortune teller must know and understand. 1. You are more psychic than you think. 2. You are the oracle. 3. There is no future, only the great now. 4. The oracle is a superior intelligence. 5. The oracle is always right. 6. The question is more important than the answer. 7. Oracles work because they're perfect. Are you ready? I've turned down the lights. I've lit the candles and incense. My eyes are closed, and I'm gazing into the future. I see that you're turning the next page. Or I see that we're going to wait till tomorrow to turn the next page. Again, the book is the Book of Ordinary Oracles. It's available everywhere, most handily on Amazon. But be sure you get to the regular Amazon retail price and not somebody trying to sell it for on the private market for exorbitant prices. Believe me, that's not me. Anyway, sorry for the confusion this morning. We must blame my internet people. So blame them. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. One more oracle. It says it's all in your head. You just have no idea how big your head is. See you tomorrow.